maybe Matt, you can replay last week's episode. You said I would love this thing to go to $1. We ended up going to 95 cents.
Well, people like to chase what's working and what they missed. So if they've been missing like OPTI, that multi-day breakout, they're going to want to chase the next one, which could definitely fuel this one to like 50. How awesome would it be if it ran to $1? Just kidding. Like,
oh, I'd be stoked. I'd be getting excited to short it.
For so many plays, the long, the short, the panic dip buy the next day.
Oh. Yeah, like an SHMP type play.
Oh, that'd be unreal. Welcome back, everyone, to This Week in Steady Trade. It is August 12th. We are recording this. You're probably watching it on the 13th. Yeah, another normal episode. We have some fun stuff queued up. Hopefully we can get this live episode that I keep talking about together, trying to figure out the technology. But let's just do our usual round robin. How is August treating you guys? What are you up to? We'll start with Kyle. Kyle's usually the first.
So the first last week and this week, I have felt, I guess the only word is lazy. I'm not unmotivated, but I just, how busy the last few months have been, and then seeing how it is certainly slowed down on some days today, I've just had the urge to kind of take more days off. Monday I didn't trade. I pretty much slept in. Tuesday after the first hour, yesterday after the first hour, I pretty much stopped for the rest of the day. I pretty much could have done that today, but I chose not to. I just sat in front of my TV or my computers, didn't do anything. There are still a lot of plays, but I wouldn't say I feel worn down, but I definitely, just with the market changing, like August is usually the month where everything slows down, and we've seen a little bit of that. And so I think mentally I've done that as well. Still having great months P&L wise, a little bit slower, a little bit lower. But just kind of taking my foot off the pedal a little bit, not too aggressive. But yeah.
Baller. Well, you, Mr. Kellogg, you're on vacation.
Yep, on vacation in the Cape Cod. Nice time out here with my family. And last week, I apologize for not being on, but I got hit with a hurricane in Connecticut, and it knocked my power out for a few days, and my internet literally came back on Friday at like 5 o'clock. So like right when the market closed, like, oh, it's back on. So couldn't really do too much last week. And this week I've been on vacation. So I've just been trading the first hour and kind of taking off, going to the beach, spending some time with the family, and just, as Kyle said, not lazy, but I'm just trying to recenter and refocus so I can be prepared to trade to the best of my ability for, the last few months of the year. Whereas I'd rather take this month, August during the summertime. This was Kyle's slowest month last year. August for me last year was very slow as well. And June and July, back-to-back six-figure months for me. That's a year's salary right there already. So I don't really need to push, especially when the conditions aren't ideal. I don't have the best Wi-Fi. I'm on my laptop. But I'm still showing up to the market, and I'm taking advantage of these quick, 10, 20% singles here and there, and just trying to consistently make, a couple thousand in the first hour, which is just, incredible money to make a couple K in an hour. And I'm taking off the rest of the day. I'm not sitting there, whereas other times I would, if I was at my house, I'd probably, trade and then sit there and keep, watching and trading more or whatever. So it's nice to be away. So I actually have stuff to do besides, come back to the market, see what this or this is doing. So basically for the rest of the month, probably going to keep this chill trading where I'm just trying to make, a couple grand a day. And that's basically it for me. So just trying to enjoy a little bit of the summer before it's winter again.
Awesome. Yeah, I started this month super hot because I kind of went all in on OTCs, and I just, for the first time in a while, OTC market was really hot. But I took, I posted on Twitter, took kind of a silly, dumb loss. And that's something that just like I struggle with a little bit. Like when you get too hot, eventually you just like need a pullback. And that's kind of what happened to me today. I sold out of the loss basically as soon as the market opened, and then took the rest of the day off. And I'm kind of feeling the same way you're feeling. Today was like the first day I've really taken off since probably like March or April. Like I've pretty much been glued to my screens nonstop, market open to market close, watching, because there's always been a play. There's even on this quote unquote slow days, there's still like 2 or 3 plays that like I can take advantage of if I want to. Today I have a day job still, so I still worked. I was still at my computer, but I had all my trading platforms closed, and it just felt good to just relax, to not watch the market, not be so focused on it. And going forward, I'm definitely looking to relax a little more. August, like you guys said, August last year was so slow, like the slowest month I've ever seen, I think, trading. And while I don't really think it'll be that slow this month, I want to be like recuperated for when September, October, November, December comes, because those typically are very hot months, and I want to be in the right mindset. So looking to take it easy. And if there's a play, I'll play it, but not trying to stress myself out, trying to take advantage of everything I can. So there's our round robin there. Kyle, want to pull up the charts?
Yep.
Yeah, a little bit different of, new best month, new best week, new best trades. We're all kind of just chilling out a little bit, even though Monaco has had back-to-back really nice days. But, we're all just trying to chill out a little bit because we know that it's going to be hotter eventually. So taking this time off is really good just for your mental state.
Before we go over the charts, I'm watching IGC just go parabolic here.
Oh my
God.
God.
330, dude.
That's nuts.
So back in last week's episode, me, Matt, and Mariana had talked about, watching this 30 level as a potential breakout move, seeing how much volume this ticker had. There's a lot of potential to potentially get a good run going. And, of course, the very next day, it actually gapped up very big. I forget whether this was on news or not, but it did gap up huge, literally from 20 cents up to, 40 cents pretty much. And I didn't long this. It gapped up so big, I kind of got cold feet and really forgot about it. I didn't really consider it up here. And when it went sideways for so long, I kind of almost stopped looking at it. I think I was trading other tickers. But then we just start really getting going. And I start realizing, oh my gosh, this is doing what we said it would do. This is really starting to run huge. And I actually did take a small short into the parabolic up here around like 60. It wasn't a great parabolic, so I did take smaller size, and then I covered into these dips here on 55. Held a little bit too long, thinking 55 would kind of break down. And once it didn't, I then had to cover the rest over 60 cents. And actually looking in hindsight, like buying over 60 cents would have been a great, great long. As you can see here, it actually then gets going like super parabolic all the way up to $1. I think maybe, Matt, you can replay last week's episode. You said, I would love this thing to go to $1. We ended up going to 95 cents.
What people like to chase what's working and what they missed. So if they've been missing like OPTI, that multi-day breakout, they're going to want to chase the next one, which could definitely fuel this one to like 50. How awesome would it be if it ran to $1? Just kidding.
I'd be stoked. I'd be getting excited to short it.
For so many plays, the long, the short, the panic dip buy the next day. Oh.
Yeah, like an SHMP type play.
Oh, that'd be unreal.
I actually then take bigger size short because looking at this, if you want to compare the parabolics here, this kind of choppier grind versus this straight up move from 65 cents really to 95. This is beautiful, right? This is almost like an opposite, panic dip buy that we always talk about on the long side. So this is the exact opposite but on the short side. I ended up taking about 15,000 shares, around like a 92, 93 average. He pulled all the way back down to sub 80. I think my average cover ended up being like 79, 80. I then missed this long on this dip buy, reshorted the bounce again, and then covered again into the dip to the high to 70s. I missed this last panic and didn't play to the rest of the open. That was my really good win last week to close the week out on this amazing play that we had, briefly talked about.
Yeah, that was an awesome play. So my approach to it was the gap up kind of ruined the morning for me, but I was still watching it just because I knew the potential it had because of the previous day's moves it's had. So I started sizing in, I think around like 10 or so. I'm not sure exactly where it perked. You can see that little perk in the chart. That's where my first entry was, but then I ended up taking it off because it was just going sideways and chased it a little bit. But then after we get a little past 11 there, once it finally like cleanly breaks over that 40 level, that's when I got in. And I think my best sell on it was like 45, 46 maybe on that share, on those shares there. And you can see like it went to like 62. Like I just totally underestimated the move. But I kept watching it because as we went later in the day, kept holding up. And Kyle just mentioned that 60 level. That's when I got back in. But the problem was it was tough. It wasn't like a clean break because there was a market maker. INTL was the market maker, and he was just unloading like a ton of hidden size. And it caused the break over 60 there to not be very clean. He was on like 62, 62.5. He was everywhere. So I sold there because I just didn't like how it was going to break. And I didn't want to get stuck in something. I like a pullback, a severe pullback. So I sold. And then as it held, it kind of chopped through that INTL guy, got back in. And again, I think my best sell on this was like 72 or something. And then we were going to 95. I didn't make it through that pullback there before the real parabolic. Awesome move. Volume was incredible. And that's what happens when OTCs just get a lot of volume. They level 2 is clean. They get a ton of range. And yeah, I'm going to try to insert that clip of me saying, I hope this goes to $1 because that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Did you play it, Jack?
For me, I was bullish on it at the open. So, I just started trying to, cherry pick a good position that I could hold. And I ended up just buying at the open, kind of just flipped out for a break even. And then I got some from the dead bottom at 36. And I kind of had envisioned it in my head that, it was going to have a morning dip to the breakout level, see if it could hold. And I got some shares there. And I was like, you know what, just put a hard stop on low a day and just, walk away for a little bit. This thing can move fairly huge percent gains when it does get going. But I ended up adding to my winner and raising my average up and just getting chopped around in the sideways action. And then, my mom needed my help with some yard work. So I just closed it out and I was up like $100 on it or something. And then left for a little bit and came back and there it is at, high day. So that hurts a little bit, but what can you do? I just made sure not to emotionally do anything stupid where then I would take a loss because I'm chasing with big size with no risk or something. But I ended up playing it short with Kyle into the first parabolic. Didn't really make too much on that just because commissions were a lot and the range wasn't too good. It was consolidating. And then I didn't long it over 60 either. Just wasn't really thinking long, but eventually I was happy we did get a nice play out of it. I played the parabolic right where Kyle did, long the dip when I covered, and then sold the bounce and shorted the bounce, and then covered into that first little wash there, and then I was done with it. So ended up making a nice little profit there, but I definitely minimized on this play. But once again, just wasn't an ideal scenario for me. I wasn't at my computer. I couldn't be there all day for it. So I was just taking what the market gave me into the close, and that's what it gave me. So I'm, still grateful for the profits, but obviously I could have done way better if I was super focused and trading at my best. So, yeah.
Boom. And then the next day, there were actually no borrows or shares or shorts. So I completely missed this first red day. This was a nice kind of grind / panic on the way down from, 80 cents to 55 cents, that key support level again from the day prior. I missed that completely. I think, did you nailed the dip by though, Matt, or did you trade it, Matt? I think you traded a little bit and so did Jack long.
I did.
I missed it long though.
Jack did much better on it than I did because I played each of the dips. If you look there was one at like 10, then there was one at like 10:30, 10:45. I got both of those, but those were like small and like the turns were pretty weak. And right there where it cracked low day to that 55, I got some in. But my thought process was, and it was wrong, and Jack had the right one, was all the people who bought the previous dip, like 15, 20 minutes before, I thought would still be stuck in the stock because it just broke low day by like 2 or 3 cents more. It wasn't like a huge panic from the previous low. So I sold out into like 58, 59. And sure enough, it grinded all the way back up to VWAP around like the high 70 level. And Jack traded this from his phone because he had no power, but he nailed it.
Yeah. So for me, very unfortunate that there was no shares to short because this is, bread and butter up from, the previous close price before it gapped up huge was like 20 cents. So now it's at $1 up 500%, amazing liquidity, gapping down, tight risk reward on the previous close. The only thing that I noticed was that it didn't really have, the panic that I envisioned in my head where it would panic 30%, it would have this huge 40% bounce. So that kind of helped my mindset on the dip buy where I didn't trade the first 2 dips, but I was kind of thinking more of, this is kind of like a NASDAQ first red day play where I want to be buying the dip into the key support around 11 when the sellers dry up on wave 3 of the panic. So instead of thinking of, a panic dip buy where I want to be buying the turn, I want to be selling quickly, I want to be buying into the key support and then with the mindset of it's going to be a slowish bounce to VWAP. So that's what I ended up doing. And I just, made a couple grand on it, but that was my trade of the day on Friday. So I had the right idea there, which was nice. And it actually ended up bouncing all the way back up to the previous close price. So what a bounce. But, and as you can see, even late day there, it held 55 again, just pretty, how obvious does that get? That's why I really just like OTCs because the levels are just so clear. And this one, especially if you just respect the price action, odds are you can make money if you, have the right technical setups. So it was a nice trader. It's got some weird gap downs on it now, probably just avoiding it, but nice trader last week for sure.
So for this week, one of my best plays was today on Lcdx. This thing was a big OTC runner yesterday, and today had its first red day, and I actually was able to lock in around 2,500 on this red day. And I want to just briefly talk about what I was thinking going into today. So if you actually look at the past history of this daily chart here, is that every time it runs, it has the red day that follows the very next day. This doesn't have a multi-day or a history of multi-day runs. And usually when it has a red day, it actually gives all of its gains back. It pretty much dumps right back down to where it came from. So going into the day, I felt pretty convicted that this was going to either slightly gap down, maybe a slight gap up, but it was going to go red, and it was going to put at least, I thought best case would be 60, 70 cents, but we were not for sure, but very confident we'd go under $1. And so coming into today, I was pretty disappointed because in pre-market, you see some of these transactions going through, some of these prints, and the stock was gapping down. The previous close was 133. It was trading, 124, 122, 5. Then we started getting below 120 as we go to the open. And so in this kind of scenario, I have to ask myself, is it worth chasing down here, right? Is it worth shorting at, say, 120 when I would have liked to short at 133? And in most cases, especially since it just traded above $2, into the close yesterday, most cases I would not want to chase. But like I said previously, because it had such a great history of giving all of its gains back, because it's very rare for it to have 2 green days in a row, I did think a chase, not even a chase, but just a lower entry was worth it, especially if it opened up right there. It might be different if it gapped up over, say, it got 140, went red, and then I shorted again at 120. That would be a serious chase. But opening up at 120, I could take an aggressive risk and risk the open price. I could take probably the usual risk would be red-green. And so that's what I did. I did decide to risk red-green, shorted right out the open at like 119. And as you can see, we didn't even uptake even like 2 cents, just panicked right out the open. I covered, below 80 or below 90 cents around the high to mid 80s. And that was it for the day. I tried to reshort this small bounce here. I only got like 1,000 shares filled, and then quickly just covered around $1. But main gain was from that initial panic, and I was there for the day. Just leave it alone. Got a liquid, and that was it.
Beautiful. Classic. Nail and bail. So SHMP, I've been watching since I think that's like mid-July, end of July, after that run-up, because just an easy thing to do to catch OTC breakouts is when you have a big percent gain around OTC, just put it on a list and just check it like every day, maybe set some price alerts. So that way you know when a breakout comes. So this one I had several price alerts because I've been watching it, like I said, for basically 2-3 weeks. So I got a price alert really early in the morning when it got over, I think it was 8.5 maybe, like 8.5 cents. So like before most people saw it, before it was even on people's scanners, and that's where I first entered right off the bat into the day. And then I sized in, if we go look at an intraday chart, I sized in a couple times because I was focusing in the morning on the big picture breakout. I was like, this over multiple days is going to go to like 20, because when you get a good OTC breakout, those are the types of moves you can expect. But this is a great example of just a terrible one that failed. I sized in a couple times. There was that dip around 11 I got in, and then we got this midday spike around 11:30 noon. I sold into that because, not my whole position, just like 30% or so, because when the stock gets ahead of itself like that, especially midday, like the odds are there's just going to be a pullback. So like my thought process is, why do you want to hold your whole position through the pullback where you could at least lock some of the gains in, and then if there's a dip, you can buy them back. And if there's not, well, like you only locked part of your position and you still can, if it keeps spiking, I'll gladly continue to sell my shares at higher prices. So then the dip came midday, and then we started forming some good support levels. I think 10 and 2/1000ths of a cent was the key breakout there. It post like come 1 p.m. Eastern, got in again, and then we had a real nice spike. Some volume came in, and I sold a lot of my shares into that spike. But again, I was still focusing on the big picture. So at that point, I locked in I think I locked in like 4K by this point for my shares in the morning. It's like a 40% move on the stock. But I was still focusing on the big picture breakout. So as we look later in the day, come like 2, 3, it pulls back towards 10 cents. And 10 cents was the really big level. That was the big breakout. Plus it's like, a round cent number. So like it's a big deal for people. So I bought into that. I was like, oh, we're just retesting the breakout. It's okay. And I was fully expecting it to like grind back towards highs or close like near 11 and then continue its breakout. And it just completely fell apart. So I think I sold that position. I bought at 10, but then I bought lower because again, I was like, I don't know. I just got greedy at that point and I bought some, and then we had this hard crack into the low a day, and I just got out at the open because those trades after I locked into the strength were just stupid. And yeah, that was my dumb trade I made today. Took a little bit of a hit, but had a really good start to the week. So still green plenty. It's just, I got greedy and I was trying to force a play that wasn't there. But yeah, terrible OTC failure there.
Did you end up with a profit on it because you locked in 4K, or did you just end up actually taking like a decent little hit on it and you gave back all your gains?
True. So if you look at it that way, I was profitable on it because I think overall by the end of the day, I realized I was a little over 5K once I got out all my shares. And then I took a $3,400 loss. So I was still green, like $1,500 on the ticker. But yeah, I gave back a pretty significant portion of those profits.
Yeah. But what can you do? Like, you usually don't see stocks fail all the way down in low day like that, especially on a breakout day with good volume and a really nice chart setup. And on a former runner that has proven to trade well. I actually had bought this one at around 9 cents and just bought a small share position. I had tiny, like 30K or something, put a stop in at low a day. Came back late day, it was nice, and then I ended up adding around that 10-cent level where Matt got interested for the swing, and just ended up selling it in the low 9s for break even to a small loss. But it was just annoying to me that this nice of a chart could fail. It wasn't even about like I lost like $100 on it or something, but it was just frustrating that this good of a chart can fail. But oh well, that's what the market is sometimes. Sometimes it's going to do unpredictable things like that. So just got to take it for what it is. And, Matt still didn't do anything, too reckless. So, oh well, on to the next trade,
Exactly. That's well said. Like, especially since OTCs were running the last couple of days, like it was just a shock that this happened. But yeah, that's the market. You can expect certain things, but the market's going to do what it's going to do. So that's why you always got to like respect your risk, which I didn't do very well here. And that's why, like, it's manageable. I didn't die. I didn't blow up my account by any means, but it's just annoying and, something that probably shouldn't have happened if I was just more disciplined. So there's Shimp for you.
So potential plays to watch. Today IGC is a massive, massive runner now, up over $3 in after hours. I believe they have news something about FDA approval on either on their phase 1 trial, or they're able to begin phase 1 trials. Either way, my take on phase, biotech phases is that it's only phase 1, right? There's phase 2, there's phase 3. So even though it might be great news for investors to get in now, the reality is, a stock going up 4%, it is clearly overhyped. Phase 1 fades. There's going to be phase 2 news, phase 3 news, 6 months to a year from now. So it's a long process to even get to the point of would justify a 400% increase. So, of course, I will be looking to short it. Of course, that also doesn't mean I'm just going to short it blindly, right? We are looking for maybe potential resistance levels, maybe, obviously clear backside move before I just jump in. But as you can see here, back in 2018, this was a massive runner from, sub $2 all the way up to 14. Now, does that mean anything for today's move? Maybe not. But it just goes to show that this does have potential to run. And today is, reminded everyone of that being up 400%. So we'll have to see in the next coming days, is it going to have another huge day tomorrow? After hours, it does look like that. But again, anything can change. Bad news could come out. Plenty of traders could just bail on their positions. Lots of unpredicted things to happen. So that's why ultimately you have to react to what is going to happen, and we'll see.
What's so crazy to me, if you go back to like that yearly chart you're looking at, the 3-year,
the
volume. Yeah, Jack thought too. Just back in 2018, like that volume was absurd to us back then. And now if you go and look at 2020's volume, even though that run was just outrageous, we traded like double today on the move alone, the volume that we saw back in 2018. That's nuts.
Yeah, absolutely insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Increasing volume this year is just, we're going from 100 mil days to 200 mil days. And,
what's a billion? You actually have a billion. It doesn't even matter.
A big increase.
So, what else you got? Is that it?
There also is, I believe there is PEIX. So there's one PEIX and AMTX. Both of these tickers their daily charts are decent enough and overextended, but they certainly aren't as good as IGC in my opinion, just because IGC is such a most volume, really overextended runner. PEIX and AMTX, I do like that they have multiple days, but PEIX, it did just break out like from 250, so it's not as extended from its previous run that I talked about, I believe, 2 or 3 episodes ago. AMTX is pretty nice, very similar chart to PEIX. Both I think do have red days coming, but they're not going to be something, kind of what we talked about in the beginning of this episode, being August a little bit slower. These are plays, so they're not slow, but they're just kind of plays I'm not going to be very aggressive on. Maybe look to take 10 to 15% max on a panic. Ideally, red action on the day will be the trigger to potentially have these start panicking. So we'll see, but these two are also on watch for me as well.
Yeah. Those are the ones that we talked about at the beginning of the month, where we were discussing on how on the good plays we really want to take a little bit more, so that on these plays we won't feel as aggressive to put ourselves in a bad situation and ruin our days and our weeks, just because there's not too many plays. There's not an A+ every day, obviously, in this month. So just taking these plays a little bit slower and just being cautious. and not really going in there swinging for the fences unless it's something that is picture perfect, whereas these can just be wallet pads for us. So that's kind of my approach on it. And I think I like AMTX a little bit better just based on the daily chart, but I don't think the volume is as good. Yeah, the volume's not as good as on AMTX. So PEIX better volume, but AMTX better daily chart in my opinion. Both of them will just be small. They go red. Be focusing on IGC, but ideally IGC another couple green days, and then we're talking picture perfect when it's at 10 or whatever. So
Beautiful.
my approach.
Yeah, I got pretty much nothing on watch. A little out of touch with the market just because I didn't watch it today, but I don't think anything's really setting up for long. No breakouts. I'll probably watch my scanners and see if we get any crazy volume. IGC was beautiful today from a long standpoint. I'm kind of jealous I mixed it. If you're looking at it there, like that series of higher lows is just beautiful. And then the rip into high day there. So if you're looking at, that was probably the play of the day for the long side. All right, everybody, that concludes this episode for Twist This Week in Steady Trade. If you're new, make sure you like and subscribe, and feel free to reach out to us on Twitter, whether it's the StocksToTrade Twitter or all our Twitters. We always make sure we link them in the show notes in the description below. But that's all we got, and wishing you the best of luck in your trading, guys. See you next week.